Call this meeting to order. Public Safety and Community Health Committee meeting. Welcome, everybody. This is the last meeting of the year, and we have a very tight schedule. I calculate 90 minutes, and after my lecture during our retreat about keeping these meetings short, here I go with violating my own preaching. So we're going to be really strict with the time. If you go over, I will stop you, and I want to make sure that council gets enough time to ask questions. So what I am going to do is there are 3 items that were put on for discussion because they were too late to go on to consent. So after we approve the minutes, I'm going to ask that we move those up onto the consent agenda. But before that, can I have a motion to approve minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor, aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Thank you. All right, now moving on. Do we have a motion to move those 3 items? And they are extension of interlocal agreement with Spokane County Treasurer for processing payments of utility bills, absolute drug testing, ADT, contract extension, and approval of contract amendments for special counsel contracts.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed? Nay? Great, ayes have it. Thank you very much. So we're going to move to staff requests. First thing is 10 minutes. Mr. Atwood, agreement with Shrek for CAD and IT reimbursement. Go ahead.
This should be fairly quick. So what this is for an interlocal agreement tied to Shrek to be able to recover the costs or recover their share of the costs for all things related to technology. So we are still providing service to them both with the computer-aided dispatch system for fire dispatch and then IT support. So our staff supporting those different pieces of technology that they're still utilizing. This ILA essentially splits the cost between SFD and Shrek based on call volume. For the current period of this ILA, their share would be 48% based on countywide call volume, and ours would be 52%. So the total is $258,838.07, and that covers us from the point that they haven't been caught up to from July 1st of 2020, and that covers us through June 30th of 2022. And they'll be billed on an annual basis moving forward.
Questions for Mr. Atwood? Anybody? Okay. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. And you were very speedy. I appreciate that even more.
You're welcome.
All right. Next up, we have Mr. Dahl on the contract renewals with SNAP for essential repair and single-family rehabilitation programs. We've allotted 15 minutes. If you can keep it under that, so if we have questions, that'd be swell. Thank you. Go ahead.
Yeah, challenge accepted. So what we're doing here is we're extending contracts with SNAP for their single-family rehab and essential repair programs. These programs are historic programs that we have within the city to be able to help out low-income homeowners. The single-family rehab does large-scale repairs for folks, and then essential repair does smaller rehab for folks that have minor damage done to their home that they're unable to pay for. So looking to renew these contracts for calendar year 2022.
Councilmember Wilkerson.
Yes, thank you, George. Just curious, what other providers actually in our community provide this service?
Yeah, great question. There are several providers that provide forms and types of assistance here. This is really the largest scale portfolio of offerings for homeowners. I know that Habitat for Humanity and Community Frameworks do some other types of programs similar to this, but nothing at this scale.
Thank you.
Other questions for Mr. Dahl? It's a great program. I really appreciate you updating us on this. And I know a lot of people depend on it, so thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, next up we have update on Office of Civil Rights. Mr. Haynes and Ms. Courtwright. I don't see Carly. Oh, there you are. Do you want to go ahead? And we've allotted 15 minutes, so take it away and give us some time to ask questions.
Yeah, well,
All yours, Drill.
all right, perfect. Well, hey, first of all, I'm just excited to be here this afternoon, and I promise not to take too much of your time. I'm going to see if I have the rights to share my screen. I think I do. All right, can everybody see that?
Yes, thanks.
Okay, perfect. I thought it was this was a great quote to start off this meeting with. Learn from yesterday, live for today, and hope for tomorrow. I think that's a perfect quote to lead some of the work that I've been entrusted with doing so far, and I'm just really excited to dive even deeper into the work. What I consider to be my priority objective is to partner with community stakeholders to develop a new plan that outlines a potential Office of Civil Rights. And the main metric is to develop and finalize a plan to create that office. Some of our objectives are to review and reflect, right? Learn from yesterday, like the quote mentioned. And I wanted to make sure that we were able to review and reflect on historical context and existing stakeholder engagement and feedback. Discuss and determine the next steps for the office profile, along with past and emerging needs. And discuss and decide on next steps and proposed outcomes. Here's a potential framework that I came up with. It's our hope that the office will be a living and flexible entity that is responsive to the needs of the city of Spokane, businesses, organizations, and residents. Each cycle will involve critical assessment of the current state of the system, alignment of resources and supports, and include community involvement to ensure accountability and progress. Just a quick timeline. In partnership with the City Council, as you all know, the administration decided to hire me into this role in September of 2021. And I immediately dove in and started meeting with administration and staff just to get a better understanding of the historical context of this work prior to me getting here and what everyone hopes for potential outcomes in the creation of this role. In October, I launched listening and learning sessions, which started with the Spokane Human Rights Commission, who I have the pleasure of meeting with at least once a week, and the Office of Civil Rights Task Force, who you all received a proposal for potential Office of Civil Rights Equity from a month ago now. Then in November, continued the listening sessions and grouped in Greater Spokane Progress and other community groups and organizations. And then this month, what I started doing was I launched a Listen and Learn tour with more community-based organizations and external partners. Those external partners include civil rights organizations at the federal, state, and different city levels that are around the same size of the city of Spokane. Stakeholder engagement, I feel like this is incredibly important. How we engage stakeholders, what stakeholders we engage with as we develop this potential office and further expand the roles of this job that I've decided to step into. So with the stakeholder engagement, we collected and will continue to collect input and feedback through a variety of methods. Our goal is to provide a safe space platform for stakeholders to share their thoughts on the vision and direction of the potential office. These are just some of the different tools and ways that we're going to use to engage different stakeholder groups: individual interviews, focus groups, town halls, affinity spaces, and online surveys. Stakeholder engagement that we've engaged in so far. We've collected input and feedback from over 200 stakeholders through virtual meetings and in-person interviews. We've conducted interviews with community partners to solicit input on the proposed Office of Civil Rights, Equity, and Inclusion. What I hope to do early in 2022 is convene 3 town halls so that the broader Spokane community could also provide input on the proposal that was presented. And then ongoing work that I hope continues to happen even after an office is stood up are interviews and collaboration with partner cities all around the country. Last week, I spent the entire week partnering with the City of Tacoma's office and their director, and Lisa Woods, and they were just so gracious, and they helped a lot in regards to insight to their day-to-day work in life. These are just some of the community partners that we have already engaged with. There's a whole list of others that we hope to be able to engage with here in the near future. So some of our guiding principles. We outlined the following guiding principles to ensure that we are meeting our commitment to creating a collaborative community where every resident and every staff member knows that they belong. We work with businesses, organizations, groups, and the larger Spokane community to achieve this mission through the following principles: equity, community-centered, inclusion, innovation, trust, and collaboration. This next page is a list of words that I left blank so that we can fill in the definitions of the words here locally in Spokane. It's my experience that it's important that we define these words together as community groups and as a city of Spokane so that we're all operating off of the same understanding of what these words actually mean. It becomes incredibly difficult if we allow other people, organizations, or movements to define these words for us, because then it's almost impossible to walk it backwards and to correct the perception of what these words may mean. And with that, are there any questions?
Any questions for Mr. Haynes? I can't see. Oh, go ahead, Councilmember Wilkerson.
Yeah, chatty Cathy today. So Mr. Hayes, in one of your first few slides, you talked about the leadership on the administration side, which is great. And I'm trying to see how you're going to envision that. There was a little resistance early on around when we had our diversity, equity, inclusion training to invite them in. And for whatever reason, they did not participate in that.
Mm-hmm.
And really where the authority will lie when we look at enforcement of some of these issues that are in the city. Maybe I have the answers, but I just want to put that out there because that's where my thinking is going. And so at some point, you'll let us know as you develop this office out.
Yes, ma'am. Well, if I may respond to that really quickly, I'm not aware of that historical context or conversations that may have took place with prior trainings. What I will say is that in my short period of time here, administration has been incredibly supportive and positive and of this work. And anything that I've needed or anytime I've reached out and had comments or questions or even potential concerns, they've been really, really responsive. So I'm hopeful for their continued support as we move forward here. In regards to, where the power may lie, there's different models in different cities, in the city of Tacoma, they're more of an investigative body, and then they pass on their reports to lawyers and other groups to carry the work forward, moving from there. And other cities, they have an independent office that has a lot of power and control. So I think it's just, exploring those different office options to determine what the right outcome is for Spokane.
Councilmember Cathcart.
Yeah, thank you. I guess maybe to piggyback on that, so my understanding of the position for the last 2 years has been that it would be primarily an educational, cultural one. Mm-hmm. I think in our last conversation a week or two ago as council, there was a lot more emphasis on enforcement and fines. So I'm just kind of curious, what is your vision for the position? Is it really going to be an enforcement tool or really more of an educational type situation?
I think right now, honestly, from what I'm finding out, it has to be a good balance of both, to be 100% honest. I think that there should be a huge focus on education so that different community groups, businesses, organizations, and individual citizens in Spokane know what their rights are in the city and know what to expect, and that businesses, you know what the rights are of their employees and what they need to be able to do to properly serve citizens in Spokane. I also think that there needs to be internal facing role as well. Right now, I just took on the roles of Title VI because our Title VI officer took a new job on the East Coast. And so there's also a current need for internal facing education and work and collaboration too. So I think finding the right balance is important. I wouldn't say that any one of those roles is right now today is more important than the other.
Well, and just to piggyback on that, I guess after a year of being in this position, how would you look back and say that it's been successful or not successful? What would you be looking for in terms of success or progress over the next year to say the first year has been positive?
I think that's where the education piece would come in at, to your point. I think I would look back and review how many different groups and individuals I've been able to engage with in educational sessions we've been able to conduct. I think, I've only been reached out to twice so far in regards to people with complaints, right? Official complaints. And so that can either be really, really good in regards to, maybe they're not, violations aren't happening, or it's due to a lack of education in the community. So after a year, when the year's up, I would consider it myself successful if the majority of community members in the city of Spokane are familiar with not only, their civil rights coordinator in the city, but what Title 18 and Title 6 is.
Thank you.
Council President, go ahead.
Yeah. Oh, we're so excited to have you in this position. And I'm just going to give you a little homework assignment, not put you on the spot for today, but
Okay.
it goes to enforcement and investigation, because when we updated Title 18, that's when council said we need to have an Office of Civil Rights so that there was a clear place that people could file complaints, they would get investigated, they would get enforced. As always at the city, we emphasize education and cooperation before fines. But for the last few years, there just hasn't been an open door that someone could bring it forward and be confident that it would get resolved. And there is an overlap between state and federal civil rights laws in the city, and we've always encouraged from council that this office would refer those complaints that are best addressed at the State Human Rights Commission and the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission for the federal government, so that we focus our resources on the violations of city law only that don't have another remedy. But what I'm hoping to hear from you sometime in the first quarter is when the date will be that someone can contact your office and be confident that their complaint will be investigated promptly and enforced. So that's what I'm really looking for. If we could get that deliverable figured out, in addition to everything else that needs to get done, I think that's the promise that has not yet been kept when we updated Title 18.
Okay. I'm sorry, I was writing it down.
Okay. Any other questions for Mr. Haynes? I have one. Where are you physically located?
Right now, in this moment, or
No.
my office?
Where is your office?
On the 6th floor in CHSS.
Okay. We just want to know where you are so we can come pester you. So great.
Yeah, I'm literally right underneath council.
Perfect. So if I just take a broom and pound on the floor, you'll hear me.
I'd hear it. Yes, ma'am.
Perfect. Okay, good. Thank you. Any other questions? And we'll let you go. Thanks so much. And it is a pleasure having you here. So thank you.
Thank you. I think I saw Councilwoman Wilkerson raise her hand really quick.
I think I'll just let it go on that note. Thank
Okay.
you. Glad to have you with us.
All right. Thanks, everybody. I'll see you soon.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right.
Okay, I'm going to switch these around. We have two council requests, and I'd like Mr. Finch to go first on CHHS update. You have 10 minutes, but give us some time for some questions if you don't mind.
All right, thank you, Council and all. So I will share my screen here. Can you see that PowerPoint?
Yes.
Okay, so you know, this kind of first is just really kind of the main activities, I think, over this kind of past couple of months. But we have had, you know, 4 staff hired in CHHS, and so that leaves us kind of with 6 vacancies, but certainly a big bite out. The other vacancies really are now in the process with civil service in terms of kind of needing to kind of get new lists created. You know, so it'll be a little bit more time consuming to get to those. We've given them kind of the order in terms of what we're trying to do in terms of CMIS and the program management side as the priorities. And they're hopeful they'll be able to kind of get to those by the end of this month. So we'll see where that goes. But, you know, that always will be a challenge just in terms of timing, in terms of getting qualified folks. You know, based on conversations, you know, with several of you, as well as several of the providers or otherwise, I think we're confident in bringing forward, you know, a CHS director candidate, which will be good to see. So, you know, I still need to walk upstairs and discuss this with the city administrator, since we just kind of got out of the meeting just before this one. To help kind of, you know, make sure the groundwork's in place to kind of moving that forward. But that will be great to have, I think, a partner here, you know, with me working on the NHHS side and this person working on CHHS, and has, you know, some good expertise that can bring into bear, and is very mindful about the fact we're in rebuilding mode and brings those talents to the table as well. We've got 4 shelter surge capacity, you know, efforts that have been moving. This is based on an RFP that was done earlier, you know, in November. You know, one of these is in under 50,000 to get some of the hoteling spaces, you know, going, and that could be activated as quickly as tomorrow, but most likely would be, I think, Wednesday or Thursday. You know, and then 3 that we look to put into the process, you know, this week, and potentially with a request to council to look at suspending the rules so we can activate those in 2021. And at the very end of this, I'll be giving kind of like a shelter capacity update and kind of planning spreadsheet or view that you know. So if we can hold the questions till then, because I think that will be probably the most meaningful for anything to do with the shelters. We completed a couple big bodies of work, which I think are just important to call out. I mean, the HUD-NOFO process was, you know, probably, you know, 500 or 600 hours of work, you know, combined for a number of staff and grant writers, you know, that we'd contracted with over, you know, the kind of period between, you know, September through November. We also completed, you know, one of the kind of first state commerce reports, you know, that was really conclusive in terms of, you know, all the COVID dollars and the investment that has been done in the community. And so both those were kind of submitted on time, which were you know big events that we had to kind of get through, especially with reduced staff. One of the signs of, I think, kind of a positive for us is that, you know, we have kind of the point in time count, you know, planned for and resourced, you know, for the end of January, which is its typical time. And, you know, this is kind of now staffed. We've got a number of, you know, internal staff, as well as, you know, someone from the PMO on the project management side assisting. So, you know, this is something we've been able to kind of proactively plan and make sure is resourced rather than reacting to, which is a good sign. And I think through all these conversations that I've been having with all of you and with all the boards and, you know, the regional agencies, there's a great desire for us to kind of do some collaborative planning, you know, starting in January, which, you know, is really, I think, you know, where we need to go, because as I've expressed to many of you, until we kind of can get out of reaction mode and start actually planning and budgeting and being a little bit more principled in terms of, you know, how to look at the future and have a sustainable plan, we will just continue to be reacting as best we can, and that is certainly not going to get us where we need to go as a city. So we look forward to kind of that activity. And so I'll go to this next slide, which is really kind of to tell kind of the picture of where we've been as well as where we're going. And I'm not going to brief this in detail. All I would suggest, is that you look at the number of green check marks, which are either things that are done or at least that have been resourced. And now instead of them being kind of hanging chads or something that is a gap within the city, it now has been potentially resourced. And I think the value through I think a couple of the education and briefing engagements you've had with United Way about the expertise that they also help bring to the table for the city. The red boxes really denote the areas of focus now. Again, that 6 or 7 month surge plan. We'll talk about in just a moment as I go to the shelter capacity report. But we are having ongoing conversations in terms of how to improve the coordinated entry program, which is really kind of more of an equity and diversity-based exercise, as we're seeing, some challenges in terms of how the high acuity scores are potentially locking out certain categories of individuals from ever scoring high enough to be competitive for services. So that's something that the regional stakeholder groups, are taking on board. We have some work to do with HUD on some of the annual performance reports. That's what APR stands for. And we are working on, again, both, on the performance management side as well as CDBG on some findings, which are generally about documentation and policies and procedures. There's nothing there in terms of misuse of funds or other things that would be more troubling. And I added staff onboarding because really one of the things we're experiencing now, just even with the 4 staff on board, is that it's taking a significant amount of time from our existing staff to really make sure that we're training and we're doing the right job for those new staff as they come on board. So we're just trying to prioritize that time. As mentioned, I think we finally have, some positive movement on one of the director positions for CHHS. So we look forward to kind of being able to bring that forward to all of you. And then looking, I think, as we continue to make that ongoing look in terms of how do we refine the governance process to have a more collaborative, universal set of conversations versus, some of the kind of the siloed nature of things that potentially have happened in the past. And then looking at kind of how we're structured to the work, because I think one of the things I've seen just in the few months has been, that I think there's been some gaps. And there's certainly been some program areas where there's potentially too many on one staff member, and so we're going to need to look at some adjustments there. And the good news for that is, especially with a couple of these grants that we've got on, is that we do have administrative grant capability where we might have the capability to add some of these position depths, and it will not be an impact to the general fund. They would be internal grants, which would certainly be a welcome benefit for all of us. So what we're trying to do is really kind of, again, this November really became the seed point of changing from kind of the triage and just trying to kind of make sure the important things were done to really, as we look ahead, trying to gather information in December so that in January we can really start looking at how to refine the plan, how to have the right people and the right total group around the table to help elevate that plan and that conversation. And how to kind of look at, how we get back to, a strategic plan element that really allows us all to put in the metrics and goals that we need so that staff can help work on strategies to get to those outcomes. And I think that will, help us, greatly be able to know, a little bit better what success looks like as we look into 2022. So I think before I go to the shelter piece, is there anything, short of the shelters or emergency shelter situation that you'd have questions on?
Any questions? Go ahead, Councilmember Wilkerson.
First of all, Eric, thank you for stepping up, taking on this huge elephant. And I had the opportunity to meet the potential new director, which I think will be an amazing addition to the city. I think what I struggle with is always this talk of the regional approach. That term gets bounced around a lot, but we don't really know what that means and who is that that's kind of making this regional decision that we have no idea what's going on. So when someone gets here, could they give us a more definitive scope of really what that is and who these people are?
Yeah, Councilmember Wilkerson, I think that is the $64,000 question, and really, I mean, the short answer is it's still all of us. I mean, I don't think the names change. I mean, the city has still got to be, a primary partner at the table. The council's role, the administration's role. To me, we've just got to be able to enter into a planning process that allows all those inputs, allows the community inputs to mature, so that we can look at all those things basically, on a list, so to speak, and then be able to make, better choices and decisions about them. And I think really it's that spaghetti diagram that I showed, a month or so ago, where ultimately there's a lot of actually people, I haven't run into anyone yet that doesn't care or that's just trying to do it for some bad or nefarious reason. It's not that. I mean, those are the simple ones because, we can challenge those folks and I think mitigate. Really, it's all about approach, and it's all about people being heard and being able to kind of get it into a hopper so we can all take a look at it. And I think that it's hard for us to bring back resourcing priorities to you or budget decisions or otherwise unless we can get all that good work that people would like to do into kind of that one pane of glass. Now, that said, there's going to be differences. The county's going to have different needs than the city does. The city of the valley certainly has different needs. I think it's important for us to be aware and for those to be part of this process, but the city still will have to make some of its own determinations and its own investments in areas that it sees needed. I think they should just be in parallel and complementary wherever possible, so that ultimately if there's some joint investment that can happen on an outcome that both the county and the city or the city of the valley want, well, why wouldn't we want to make that together? So I think it's trying to get that process together so it is truly joint, but allows us to also elevate those needs that we see specific for the city so we can get to those outcomes. So yes, we owe you that, and that will certainly be part of that initial part of it is really how do some of these decisions get made? What is that right information we need to bring back to all of you to be able to help make some of those decisions?
Thank you, Eric.
Any other questions on?
Other questions for Mr. Finch? I can't see you.
I've got one.
Go ahead.
Member Kinnear. Yeah, I like where you're going, but I'm going to be kind of straight talker here. This administration has had 2 years to do this, and that was something that I had great hopes and dreams that perhaps we could, and I know COVID hit. But at this point, we have to have some strategic plans, like you said, but some alternatives. And I'd like to see some business cases presented, some community conversations about if the city takes the lead, maybe the county and Spokane Valley gives us some of their funding and shares in the funding, and we manage it all. Or the county takes the lead and we give the money to the county to do it. I also think shared locations, most of these services are inside our city limits, and we are not only shouldering the burden for Spokane County, but the county surrounding us as well. So I think we should look at this from a business case and some alternatives and bring it forward, because I think we've been spending a lot of time with relationship creation and hoping and wishing that other people will come forward with money and plans, but we need to react quicker. And I do think it is somewhat like the pandemic. It is a crisis, and I think we need to employ all of us on the council to work with our friends on the commission and on the Spokane Valley. I know we've been using micro teams to do it, but I think we've gone beyond that. So that's my suggestion, is all hands on deck on this and bring us 3 different alternatives. There's not one perfect answer, and let's please look at models like in Clark County for Vancouver, Pierce County for Tacoma. How do they do that with their teams, with their different jurisdictions? Let's show how it's working elsewhere there and around the country, and let's make some decisions. That's my hope.
And thank you, Councilmember. I'll take those on board, and certainly that best practices review, little marker is really what that is meant to do. I mean, we've got to take a broader look, and then we've got to get that broader group around the table and do it quickly. I get the fact that we can't just go into a planning cycle that never seems to end. All I would suggest is that reacting and continuing to react only is certainly not gotten us where we need to go. And so I'm looking forward to moving past that myself too. Other questions?
Any other questions for Mr. Finch?
And I'm just going to move on to the shelter capacity once then.
I'm going to echo what Councilmember Mumm just said. And at some point, I think we need to determine if our partners are not interested in engaging, because this has worked for them for quite a while, where the city takes on the burden. So they're happy to get into conversations with us about a bigger picture. But as Councilmember Mumm said, after 2 years, there has been no movement, and I'm beginning to doubt whether they're interested at all in collaboration. So I would ask that we determine that first. Are they actually going to collaborate with us, rather than waste more time on trying to make a partnership work? So that's my 2 cents, and please continue.
All right, thank you, Councilmember. And yes, I'll take that on board. There's been some positive conversations, and there is some work happening, I think, beneath the wave tops, and it'll be, I'll do a better job at trying to make sure that those get highlighted as well. But, the proof's in the pudding, so to speak. So in response to, I think, several, I did this as an earlier one that I think I showed a few of the council members before, just as we were trying to work through the problem. This is an update based, on the latest capacity report that I saw, today, adjusted for some of these other activities that we're trying to do. And so, this is a summary, right? So that we don't have to, dive into every exact, different line or row in the capacity report. But if you just look at, the sections match from the capacity report that you're used to seeing. And so what I did when I first came on, that first month or so, is I did basically this average of what we kind of had for a city between January and April of 2021, just, to represent those winter months, those colder winter months in terms of what the capacity was. So that's, it's not, it's not scientific. I'm not, trying to say it's more than that, but that just to give me at least a rule of thumb about where we are. And so I've really been concerned, and I say this because with a lack of subject matter expertise in terms of, background, and I appreciate that. But, obviously there's been concerns about, 100 beds lost and other things. And so as I've really tried to dive into the reporting piece, it seems like there's areas that were better and areas that were worse, right, or that we have less. And I guess rather than talking about an overall, I guess I wanted to kind of gravitate towards where do we actually have problem areas and what do we need to do about those to help, help improve the overall system. And then I think you add to the point where, since the Way Out Center really is just getting to the point this week, right, where they're accepting applications and they're looking at filling their beds, we're not going to know yet as a transitional shelter versus emergency shelter, we know that some of the people that are in the emergency shelter system will kind of promote into that transitional housing model. But no one's going to know what that number looks like, right, until it happens and until they kind of are fully up to speed. So right now I've just kind of planned for the 50% piece, because I really don't know more than that until we see some better data and some better performance. But as I look at the system overall, it continues to show me that where we have the most pressure is for women and for families. And so that has continued to be kind of my focus in terms of what we need to do to improve those areas, or something that is, flexible enough, like the hotel solution piece of it, that can work for any of the categories or populations. And so, and one of the things we'll be activating, again, within the next, day or two, through the Guardians, will be, a hotel solution that will start with 20 space capability, grow to 40 within, the next 3 or 4 weeks. And then ultimately at least 20 units. We're looking between 20 and 30, depending on what we can do in terms of the budget aspect of it, and the wraparound services and staffing aspect of it, for at least 20 family units, if not 30. And so as we look at those, making those adds, and I forget. Also, we're looking at a program that would help, give about 190 nights for domestic violence for women, that would allow us to have some, I think, rapid, some rapid short-term housing options for that population, more than what we have today. So when we look at those things holistically versus, I think the numbers we had, I can see us cautiously, optimistically getting to, a pretty good spot. And so I wanted to make sure, and I will circulate this around. I did not have the time to send it before the meeting, and I apologize, because I really want to dive in to the numbers and have that meaningful dialogue. One of the biggest challenges for us is that we don't really have the planning goals, or otherwise. And I think there's been, that difference. And Council President, I know you and I had at least a hallway conversation on this, where what is that right planning number? And so I put this together to kind of show that in one pane of glass, and happy for any questions and certainly any follow-on discussions in terms of improvements we need to make.
So,
Eric,
Mr. Stage, we're at our time. We're 5 minutes over. So, questions? I heard Mr. Cathcart. Was that you?
Yeah, I just have a quick question, comment, real fast.
Go ahead.
So, just on the hotel solution you're talking about, I know when the health district was doing that with in the quarantine, there were some issues where the hotel that they used was not in a state of repair. And I'm just hoping that we've done a better job of vetting whatever the structure is that we're using for that solution. So just throwing that out there.
I'll check and verify, but I believe that loop has been closed, but I will give you a positive confirmation via email.
Thank you. And Mr. Finch, once you send us this piece of information, we can loop back with you and do a deeper dive and have some meaningful conversations about this. So I appreciate you taking the time and all the work that you've done on this and jumping in quite fearlessly, I might add, because this was not your area of expertise. So we appreciate your time and attention to it. It's very important. So thank you.
Thank you for your support.
So next up, we're having Patrick Stryker, COPS update. Mr. Stryker, are you there?
Yes, I am right here.
So I will cut you off if you go too long, and we want time for questions and to chat with you. So go
I
ahead.
know people cut me off, but I think we'll be all right. So I'll give you guys a couple updates. Councilmember Stratton had asked if I would give you guys an update from time to time, just to kind of let you know what we're working on. I have my two victim advocates next to me. I'll give them a couple minutes here in a little bit, but I'll give you a few bigger picture stuff at first. Ultimately, the past few months, gosh, everything's been going really well, really strong. We've been getting out into the community really hard and trying to push on a lot of the education pieces and the community pieces to fight back against crime. And so like our block watches, it's through the roof in terms of the number of new block watch applicants we've had, which I love because so much of crime prevention starts at the neighborhood level and getting neighbors together. So I think it's effective and it's good, but I love that it's positive and it's community building to fight back against crime. And so those numbers are really gone up for us. And same with Business Watch. Same idea as Block Watch, but working with the business community and working on the prevention side. And we've got a ton of new business watches and businesses that we're engaging with to get them going and keeping it positive and working with them. In fact, we had a business conference back just a few weeks ago that was aimed at crime prevention for businesses. It was a full day conference, had a lot of speakers, and it was great. Good turnout. And actually what was awesome was, obviously this was meant to be here in Spokane. I had a lot of businesses and police departments from all around the state that signed up, and we have a lot of cities that will call me on any given month that follow us and want to know how we do what we do in terms of our programs and our community engagement. And so we had mainly police departments from around the country and even international police departments that were at this conference, because it was Zoom, that were attending with us, that just like to follow us and do what we do, and we're learning. I thought that was really awesome. I thought it was just going to be Spokane businesses, and we ended up international, so that was great. Lately, I've been working a lot with the city and working with them. We've been passing out the dump passes all summer and into the fall, and that was great. We gave away hundreds and hundreds of those, which is really good. We were happy to help with that, and now we've got those speeding signs that we're handing out to the community. People can come into the cop shop and grab, I think it was to say Neighbors Drive 25 or something, just kind of those reminders for people to slow down. Just last week, I was working with 311 and talking to them about cops and what we do, and so making sure they're good and informed so they can refer people our way. So Carly had invited me out for that, and that was great. Met with Johnny Perkins a couple of weeks ago, really good stuff there. So a lot of good stuff we're going with the city here and working alongside and helping out any way we can. Our NOP patrols have just been so high and heavy this whole year. The goal has been, 10,000 hours of NOP, and man, we blew past that number. So just that one program, 10,000 hours, blew past that last month or the month before, and really hitting the school zones hard, getting out into there, among other things, of course, but working with the schools, communicating with them, and having good presence there for the kids. I really like that. We've also spent so much time this past year, but we've just kept at it because it was so well received by our volunteers that last year was every week, but now we're every month doing training on crime prevention topics. And so we bring in a relevant speaker, and it's a Zoom meeting, and we record it, and we archive them all. And so we have a lot of people that have signed up with us just for no other reason. They want to watch these videos and learn about crime prevention. And so those have been going really, really well for us. And my volunteers are on there all the time. And so I like to think that our volunteers are learning to be even more effective as they're learning more about kind of the whole system and how it works to deal with criminal issues, and of course dealing with it in positive ways as much as we're able, and using the community as the vessel, because that's what we do. And so I think these training videos are great, and they're all archived, and I really like that. New Tech is a skills center. Of course, here in town, they have a criminal justice program. And last year, we kind of did a trial run for just a couple months to get their kids into the cop shops to really get that hands-on experience of working with the community. And, if this is going to be the next generation of law enforcement, of learning, what does that look like to see it from the community's perspective and learn about community-oriented policing. Went really well last spring, and so we're back at it again this year for the full year, working with Tommy Williams at Skills Center, the New Tech there, and so the kids are already in the shops. We've got, I think, 21 or so that are part of us for the year, and I think that's a really great thing. I really love that, working those kids. And then I've had some communications with SPD about working an Explorers program into it, because a few of my volunteers have a lot of experience with the Explorer program, so being able to do even more with those kids, because I think that's just a great thing. And then, of course, hitting our CEPTEDs, myself, staff, and a number of volunteers are CEPTED certified, and getting out to whether it's residential homes, businesses, and assessing and making those recommendations. We do that all the time. We've been trying to really push that hard, too, because it's in terms of bang for the buck, I love CEPTED, always have. I think it's just a really great thing to help people and businesses avoid becoming victims in the first place just through some of those simple changes. And of course, we've got the annual report coming up, and so as staff, we are working on that. At the moment, you guys will have that in your hands, probably 6 weeks or something like that. So that's kind of what we've been doing. But now I really want to turn it over to our crime victim advocates, because they're going to give you a couple updates on some of the things they've been doing. We will definitely keep it under the time limit, Lori.
I'm short, so we have to do it this way. Okay, so I'm Tracy Ponto, and this is my partner, Annette Henriksen. I work out of Cops West Central, and Annette works out of Cops Northeast. And we just want to kind of give you an update on how our 2021 season has been going so far. We've been incredibly busy. We probably have had a couple of thousand referrals. They come all over the place, from patrol officers to landlords to neighbors to walk-in community members throughout the 9 different cop shops. Some city council people have referred, police departments done referrals. For that, we want to thank you, because we appreciate your referrals. And we kind of want to talk about some of the calls that we go to and help with. And I'll turn it over to Annette.
Hello. So some of the types of calls we take in are quality of life issues. So neighborhood disputes.
Could you speak up just a little bit?
Oh, yes. Okay. Hi. Okay. Quality of life issues. So there's neighborhood disputes, drug houses, crimes against persons, property crimes, identity theft, frauds, and scams, stalking, orders of protection, civil orders, harassment, domestic related issues, landlord-tenant issues, and vehicle selling.
So one of the things that we fight ourselves on, because there's just two of us, is that as soon as we get a referral, we try to make that first initial phone call within 24 to 48 hours. We try to set up in-person interviews so that they really can sit in our victim advocate center and talk to us about what is going on. We want them to feel like they are being heard. And then at the same time of sitting across from them and letting them tell us their story, that we then can start thinking ahead of, like, is this an adult protective service issue? Is this a mental health type issue? Do these folks, would they benefit from different, like SEPTED or NOP or a block watch? So it's good to sit down with these folks, find out what their story is, think about all the different areas that we can help them with. But our very first initial goal in that setting is to game plan. And so we ask a lot of questions. We see if there's other agencies that need to get involved. And we really establish that game plan for the victim. And then we let them know the direction that we are headed for, so they have a clear picture of why and where we're going in this. And then usually by the time we end that meeting, we have set up a second follow-up meeting. And this has been very beneficial for us.
Mm-hmm. So at that point, we are coming up with a safety plan. So we discussed safety concerns for the victim and where they live. We've gone out to complete a SEPTED on the property, provide security equipment, installation like security cameras, driveway alarms. They need extra lighting or protection around their gates. We discussed their personal security away from home along with situational awareness. And we also educate them on how it is necessary to document and report. They may not think it's that important, but they learn to go through with that. And we also offer, of course, the NOP to the neighborhood.
So one of the deals that we do is that a lot of times when folks come to us, they're very frustrated with the system. They aren't calling Crime Check anymore. They don't feel like anyone's listening to them, or they're not being heard, or nothing's going to happen. And so what that allows us to do is reinforce that those reports are being read, that they are being utilized by the neighborhood resource officers to help resolve those problems. We enter into, we fiercely advocate for our police department and bring people on board of, we want the police department to get involved here, but we can help you get there. And so we kind of like triage. We kind of think we're the nurses. So we run the show and we get them educated and get that game plan going so that in the documentation through Crime Check or picture taking or other neighbors on board or whatever it is. And then the goal is that we present this packet to our neighborhood resource officer or to the police department and get it into the hands so then that they can do the follow through. So we try to simplify it, but we really are working hard on empowering our victims so that they feel like their efforts are not, don't go to by the wayside. A lot of our victims don't have Wi-Fi. They don't have printing capabilities. In COVID, if I didn't have Wi-Fi, I was kind of limited on how I could go seek a order. And so by coming to the cop shop or coming to our victim advocacy office, we were able to help them with those anti-harassment orders or protection orders. We will help them type it up. We get their statements. We know some of the real trigger words that judges are looking for as far as, you know, your basic harassment or I'm intimidated. We break those down. We work with the other witnesses. We take their statements down, but we present this pretty little packet and get it submitted with their email so we can get these orders filed for them. We also prep them for court. That's a very stressful situation if you've not gone through it. We meet them beforehand. We'll meet them at court. We help them with the Zoom courts. We've testified on their behalf. We've provided declarations in the past. So it's not a, you know, I don't take a clipboard and you're number 8. I know your name, I know your address, and I've met with you several times. So it becomes, we build up this rapport with folks, which really helps in that sense of being heard and providing the empathy. while we're doing these and we have all these different victims, we look at all of our programs, Block Watch, SEPTED, Neighborhood Observation Patrol. And so we really incorporate some of those going out to their house, installing cameras, taking a look how they can better make their home safe, which will help them feel more safe. And that's a big deal too. A couple of things that I want to talk about is, right now our cases, a majority of my cases seem to be mental health related, neighborhood disputes. So your petitioner may be calling Crime Check a lot and then getting very frustrated because they're not seeing anything happen. But we are able to work with behavioral health units and find out, what direction we're going with this, help with the anti-harassment order, and help not diminish those 911 calls or Crime Check calls, but maybe lighten the load a little bit there and help those victims that feel like they're very vulnerable to a person that might be suffering from mental health. One of the other things is SEPTED, crime prevention through environmental design. We had neighbors that were upset with a vacant property down on Boone. It was an absolute blight to this neighborhood. We partnered with West Central Development Project, came on with 28 different volunteers and got the assistance from the elderly owners and cleaned up that property completely. We go down there once a week and do an additional cleanup. Every time we're down there, we have people say, thank you, I feel safer walking by here. This is much better. And so we get that constant feedback. Lately, the latest thing that we've done is the Neighborhood Observation Patrol. People want the police department to handle the parks. And we believe that we can handle the parks on our own if we show a presence. And it doesn't mean like a vigilante type thing, but what it means is organizing a group, showing your presence in your park, and own your space. And so we met last Monday. We had 12 of us, and we had reflector vests on. It was nighttime, 5 p.m. We picked up the parking lot garbage, and then we walked casually through the park. I think we were there 30 minutes. People who were living in their cars or doing some criminal activity in the cars left. And what was really exciting was we didn't make contact with them. We didn't do any kind of enforcement thing. They saw our presence. They saw that we cared, and they chose to leave for that time that we were there. So that's kind of fun, being in this position of seeing the programs that the cop shops have and being able to utilize them and empower the neighborhoods. What else do you have?
Tracy, I'm going to stop you there because I think some of our council members might have some questions. Go ahead, Councilmember Stratton.
I just have a couple comments. The first being that thank you both, because I've had to rely on you for a number of issues that I've had in my council district, and you've done wonderful. And I always feel like the individuals that I refer to you are being treated well and getting the help they need. And to Patrick, I just wanted to say thank you. The Safeway on Northwest Boulevard thanks you for the attention, the conversation, and I just appreciate the effort, because it makes such a difference to have one of you walk into a business and say, we're here, we're not far away. If you need us, give us a call. What can we do to help? And as you know, we've had some few issues at that particular store on Northwest Boulevard. So I just wanted to give that back to you, because when I go in there, they always wave and say thank you. So
no, thank you. Thank you.
Thanks. And Councilmember Wilkerson, go ahead.
Thank you, and thank you, Patrick Stryker, also. So the work that you're doing, have you looked at your expansion capacity, because that's neighborhood policing at its best, and also there's been a little chatter about graffiti cleanup in the neighborhoods. We have quite a team in the downtown core, but we don't really have any resources in neighborhood for graffiti abatement. Any ideas along that line, Patrick?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Councilmember Wilkerson. I know I had sent you all kind of a proposal for a position about that. And I think we've spoken about it briefly, and I know I was just talking to Johnny Perkins about it a couple of weeks ago. But yes, I mean, we have capacity to add a position that would focus on that because it is an irritant for the neighborhoods. It is a blight. And as we talked about, something like graffiti and the broken windows theory, you're just attracting more and more crime. And so being able to deal with that quickly and efficiently and do it positively and working with people is critical. But yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I would love to have a position like that. And in fact, Councilmember Wilkerson, if you want me to resend you that one specifically, I'm more than happy to do so.
Any other questions? Okay. Patrick and team, thank you so much. It's been great. And going to close the meeting now. If there's nothing else from the group for the good of the order, we'll see you January 10th in 2022. I just cringe when I say that, 2022, but indeed it's upon us. So if I don't see you before the holidays, have a great holiday season, and we will resume here at 3:30 for our briefing session. Thanks very much, everybody.